Movies like Facing the Giants, Fireproof, Courageous, and War Room have touched the nations, bringing to life the power of the gospel at work within us, the transformational power of prayer, forgiveness, and unconditional love. Now, the new movie, Life Mark, joins the throes of this based on the true story of a young man who's facing the reality of his adoption. And we have the absolute pleasure of speaking to American Christian pastor, film writer, producer, director and actor Alex Kendrick, one of the three brothers behind the company responsible for the production of these world-class films, the Kendrick brothers. Kia ora and welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us today, Alex.
Oh, great to be with you, Kat. Thanks so much for having me.
It is a pleasure to be able to chat to you. And, when we look at the Kendrick brothers, yes, three brothers involved. And when we look at the website, you say that the Kendrick brothers are on a mission to honor Jesus Christ and make his truth and love known among the nations. And a big part of that is what you're doing through film. Now, it strikes me as quite a unique situation. Three brothers, not only that you've all developed a passion for this medium of communication, but that you've come together and worked together. So tell us a little bit about this journey, the story, and how it all came together.
Well, after we made the movie Overcomer, Kirk Cameron gave us a phone call, and he said he had seen this short little documentary called I Lived on Parker Avenue. You can pull it up on YouTube and watch it. It's a true story of an 18-year-old girl who at the last second rolls off the abortion table and says, I want to have this baby. And she places the baby for adoption. She was not able to, at that stage of her life, to raise the baby. She places it for adoption. The baby is adopted by a Christian couple who could not have their own children. They named him David. And so David grows up in a loving home. And when David turns 18, he gets to meet his biological mother, who thought he would hate her for what she had done. And instead, he wraps her up in a loving hug, says, thank you for the decision you made. Thank you for letting me be adopted. I'm so grateful. And she just melts. She is so touched and sobs. And so they reconnect, but he's still, intact with his biological family. Of course, he loves them. And so there's some twists along the way that are in the movie. So I don't want to spoil that aspect of it.
Oh, no,
but
don't.
Today, David is in his 20s, newly married, and he is a lawyer that is helping other families adopt children. And then the biological mother, Melissa, actually speaks all over the place on the value of life and what God has done in her life. So when we saw this really happen and met the real people, we said, this has to be a movie. It says so much just telling the story.
Well, I understand, in this film, you wrote part of it, you produced, and you even act in it. What inspired you to bring the story to life, and have you drawn on any of your own experiences in your life to put this into the movie?
Well, this is the first time I have ever played an actual person. So playing Melissa's husband, Sean, that she marries later, was a lot of fun. We had all the real people on set with us. It's also the first movie where we did some of our own stunts. We do some ATV stunts. There's some cliff jumping. There's some knife throwing, some skydiving, because they really did those things in real life. And so we got to incorporate all of those things into the actual movie. And it was a lot of fun to do those things with the real people. And we actually placed the real people in side scenes, side characters throughout the movie, where you actually will see the actual people it's based on, but just not in primary roles. But it's going to be fun for people to go back and say, wow, that was the real mother, that was the real son, that was the real adopted parents, and things like that. So it was a lot of fun to put it together.
Sounds really cool. Well, I have to confess, I am a little starstruck because not only have you written and directed this film, you were a huge part of War Room and you also starred in that. And I remember when I first watched the movie War Room, a movie about the power of prayer as a weapon and inviting God to fight your battles for you. And our family loved it so much, we bought the DVD, and it was the first Christian movie that had an impact on our entire family. So my little girls were only preschoolers at the time, and they wanted to watch the DVD on repeat. And I have to say that winning out against Dora the Explorer was quite a feat in our house at the time. And it just goes to show, the impact of a film, the capacity to reach young and old alike. People in New Zealand, thousands of kilometres away, we're across the world from you, getting a fresh zeal for prayer and inspiring our faith. So not only was that movie one of your biggest commercial successes, I believe it's had a massive impact spiritually, and I know that LifeMark is going to do the same. So speaking of incredible successes on some incredulously small budgets, what are some of the biggest challenges for Christian film production teams, or perhaps barriers to making a movie and getting it out into the world?
Well, that's a great question. All of us want to make good movies that people love and are inspired by. One of the hurdles for us, honestly, is trusting the Lord. We have all these ideas. We've learned there's a difference between a good idea and a God idea. Have these ideas and say, Lord, you can have whatever you want. You can change our direction whenever you want to, and we will follow your leading. Even in the Christian life, that is hard to do sometimes because we want our logic to tell us what we need to do, and we just beg God, you just bless what I'm already doing. But the price for Christianity for us is learning to die to ourselves at times and say, God, I want to follow what you want us to do. And he is perfect already. He is so perfect. And sometimes when we're nervous about that, we have to remind ourselves, without faith, it's impossible to please God. That's Hebrews 11:6. So I remind myself when I come to one of those moments in my life where I'm unsure about what to do, and I feel like God's telling me to do something, but I don't understand why yet. I remind myself that faith is pleasing to the Lord. And when we honor the Lord with what we do, we still have to work hard. We still have to do our best. But when we honor the Lord with what we do, he gets glory from that. And so those gaps that are required of faith to jump, we have to jump those gaps with faith. God always comes through, and he loves getting that praise, that honor, and that glory. And when we do that, he does more than we can ever ask or imagine. So those are still hard things for us to do, but I wouldn't have it any other way. God deserves the credit and the glory.
Well, it must be challenging in an industry that is very profit and, described as perhaps egocentric, which, brings me to, elaborating on that question of faith and how you come into making films and how you approach this in your filmmaking and process, because you've covered, we've talked about prayer with War Room. You've also looked at fatherhood, but how do you bring these aspects of faith, into this process of filmmaking?
The thing we do going into any project, and we're not actually going into another project right now, we lay the groundwork in prayer. We say, just like when a farmer goes out and the first thing he does is prepare the soil even before he plants. So he prepares the soil and then plants and then nurtures it to grow. And so preparing the soil for us as far as a story is concerned, or the ministry of a movie is concerned, we lay that groundwork in prayer. And so we say, God, we want to go the direction you want us to go, that you will keep your hand and your blessing on it, your protection on it, your guidance on it, and that you will do more than we could ever ask or imagine. So we pray that for each of our projects. And the Lord usually does things to stretch our faith along the way. In other words, what I'm telling you, even though it's a blessing, it is not always easy. And so sometimes he stretches our faith, but he gets glory out of that. So that's the way we go into it. So prayer first, and then we get in unity and we go the same direction with our team, our cast, our crew. We're very careful about when we pull our cast and crew together because we want to be unified in the direction we're going. But when we do it that way and honor the Lord, he comes through. He does. And he always surprises us with the impact that these movies make. And as a result of that, he gets all the credit, right? So we can make a movie, but only God can touch the heart. And so we're so grateful for what he does.
Absolutely. Well, LifeMark, this is the latest movie that you guys have produced. So what's different about this movie compared to some of your other work that you've done with your brothers, Stephen and Shannon?
So this one being a true story, it was interesting. We did write a script, but the script was still based on the actual events that happened. And, so the format of the story is a little bit different because we had to follow what actually happened. And so some of the twists and turns that come at unique and interesting places in the movie, we wanted to honor the true story and honor the people that it's about. So that was a little bit of a challenge, but it still turned out strong. And we were so grateful for that. So people that have seen the movie, I'll tell you one of my favorite stories, one of the early screenings of the film. This man saw it. He comes up to me, tears coming down his face. He says, I have been closed to to the path of adoption for my wife and I. We are unable to have children, and I did not want to go to adoption. But watching this movie, the Lord touched my heart and said, "You can do this." He said, "I'm going to go home and tell my wife, let's adopt," because she wants to. And I said, wow, if the Lord starts doing those kind of things in people's hearts, I'm all for it. We're just so excited.
Yeah, well, we're excited to see the film too.
Definitely.
And, the story around adoption, as you say, based on a true story, but that story leading to, forgiveness and redemption. So much more to this, and an incredible opportunity, I guess, too, Alex, to be able to engage in this format in this way through film. Well, it's in selected cinemas around the country at the moment. Lifemark is the film. You can get details through the website lifemarkmovie.com.au. And Alex Kendrick with us, one of the Kendrick's brothers, three of which who are involved in producing these films, and quite a I was going to say a discography, but it's not, because it's films. But looking forward to more to come as well, Alex, and really appreciate your time joining us on the show to talk about this new film, Lifemark.
Well, thanks so much. One day I got to make it down to see you guys. I can't wait to visit your country.
Oh, we would love that. Thank you so much.